Hello, and welcome back to the Holistic Hatha Yoga podcast. I'm your host, Kelsey, and I'm here to talk all things Hatha Yoga. What's up, my friends? How are you faring in the world, wherever you are? I hope it is well, but oh my goodness, this is some wild things going on globally in general. And so I did just want to say, I do feel like we're about to enter some really, really wild things. And so just kind of be ready for that. Buckle up. Buckle up wherever you are. Don't say I didn't warn you. Sometime in July, shit's gonna get weird. So with that, we all need to know all the tools that we have at hand to remain calm, remain in our highest good, remain in our energy, and move forward with positive light. Welcome to the show. Not trying to be all doom and gloom. We will prevail. Life will prevail. It will be good, but it's going to be weird, It's going to be weird for a minute. Welcome to the podcast. On to today's episode. Today I really just wanted to talk about Hatha Yoga and the Yoga Sutras, what makes them so powerful, and why I really have just made it my life mission to preach on the subject of Hatha Yoga to the end of my days. It's just for me, it's something I cannot let go of in my life because it's proven to work. And so once you see something that works, you're like, oh, duh, I just do that thing and that takes care of that, Specifically if they're just little things like small exercises, this, that, the other, that you can do very practically and easily and free, and you don't need props, like you can just do it. And so that is really why I've loved yoga and have latched onto it 16 years ago now and just never looked back, and I also feel better now than I ever have in my life. And so I know it's working, because people tend to maybe not feel as great the older they get. And I've been feeling better and better. So good things happening. But anyway, back to Hatha Yoga, as I've touched in previous episodes, um, the practice of Hatha Yoga, we are really um, doing a lot of different things, obviously at once, but we're working with the mind, body, and soul, essentially, and coming to a union. Yoga means union. Hatha means it's two words put together, ha and tha, which means sun and moon, and so like the divine union of opposite energies, or sun and moon, or feminine and masculine, or um, your Ida and Pingala, essentially in our spinal column is what we call it in like yogic terms, I suppose, or Vedic terms. And then there's the Shushama in between, is like the channel that it all kind of flows through, but it's all going up and down, but it all has to be connected in flow in order for any power to work, Negative energy doesn't do any good without positive energy, and vice versa. So we need both. Anyway, so yoga is the union of all of that so that you can find your own divine union or divine light in union with divine oneness, consciousness, universal God, whatever you want to call it. And yoga is really the only way that I've seen out of like any philosophy I've studied, whether it be Christianity, Muslim, Hindu, yoga, Buddhism, Islam, Native American practices, Ayurveda. I guess you can wrap that into just Indian science. Um, I don't know what other thought patterns or religions I guess I've studied. Um, the Tai Ching. Um, I've read that. So anyway, out of all of those, yoga is the only one that specifically tells you how to do it. You know, all of the religions talk about the divine connection and da da da, seek it through God, seek it through God, seek it through God. And like they tell you all these different things, and then you're supposed to go, you know, tell a pastor or like have confession or do all these wild things in churches and whatnot, all in the sake of like connecting to your divine power, basically taking all of your power away from you and putting it into the hands of others. So like the exact opposite of what religion is really talking about. And so yoga is the only one that I notice that actually gives us a step-by-step playbook of how to have a healthy mind, body, and soul so that we can maintain a healthy connection with our divine union within. Mic drop. Like, they're the only ones that tell us how to do it. You know, all the other religions talk about it and tell you to do it. And maybe they did tell you how to do it and stuff in other texts that were then maybe altered throughout time to hide those truths. But regardless, yoga is really the only one that I've seen that actually explains it. And so I think that's probably why I decided to dive down that realm. And when I dove into yoga, I was pursuing an art degree. I was going for illustration at an art school, and that's when I started practicing yoga at a Buddhist temple. And then I was kind of finding, you know, people tend to say as far as career and things. So I was just starting college. So I was very young, entering my, like what kind of career I wanted to go into. But they always tell you to go for something where like time disappears when you do it. And so for me, that had been art. And so I had been doing that. And then I discovered yoga and I was like, whoa, I found another thing that, um, kind of time disappears when I do it. And this is something I need to pursue as well. And so I really kind of changed trajectory there, and I stopped going to art school. I went to a community college where I took as many like as anatomy and phys courses as I could, like human anatomy and physiology, if you didn't understand what I was talking about. But I did as many as I could to understand everything I could about the human body inside and out. Um, and that was wild and amazing. Um, we did cadaver labs where we were literally opening and looking at real human bodies and cadavers, people who had donated their bodies to science after they had passed. And it was just some really eye-opening things. No pun intended, but to see all the different types of innards of insides and the different cuts of the body so you could see things on different planes and really get a good idea of what everything's like on the inside there. Um, so that paired with my yoga teacher trainings in India really gave me a solid understanding of the human body. And so my point of that was that um, yoga is really the only thing that tells us, yeah, how to actually treat our vessel best and how to, you know, connect with that divine light within. And so, um, you know, a lot of what we teach in yoga, it, well, that's the thing. A lot of what we want to teach in yoga is not what we actually get to teach in the studio. You know, I taught in studios for years before I stopped, and I kind of switched careers for a while, and that worked out in a great way. when it needed to. But then, yeah, things shifted and it was like, okay, so many signs pointed at it's time to enter back to teaching. But I knew I wasn't going to teach back in a specific studio or anything. And so that's kind of where holistic Hatha Yoga was born. And so that way I could teach on my own terms where, when you're in a studio, you have no control over who shows up to your class and who doesn't. And so you could never really build upon one class to another um, too much without, losing people here and there and da da da. So you couldn't really teach a whole system um, in an efficient way that people really understood. And so you could teach them asana in a way that they understood all day long, but to teach them everything else was difficult. And so, not that it can't be done in certain ways in workshops and stuff like that, or have people sign up for like once a week or once a month or whatever, yada, yada, yada. I digress. But the point is that there was no way to really teach these things in order from first to last to people in the studio setting. And so that's what I love about the online setting is that we can do exactly that. We can go one to the next lesson, to the next lesson, to the next lesson. When we can learn these things in the order that it's meant to and digest it and understand it in the order that it's meant to. And so I was reading today in the Yoga Sutras, which are I was like, when exactly were these written? But it was right around 2000-ish years ago they were written, and that was when they were written. They had been orally passed down for hundreds, if not thousands, of years before that, and so that's why this robust system is like so beautiful because it's time tested and so true. But so it talks about, these different paths in these different ways, the 8 limbs, the 8 paths. And a lot of what we teach, basically the things that I teach people are mostly asana, pranayama, and meditation. Because if you know those things, you can take it from there and you find your own path. You find your own light, you find all your things. You have all the tools, you go and you do it and you're going to have your own experience. And that's the beautiful thing. That's why it's a journey, because like it is something that you ultimately do by yourself. Like your teacher shows you things, but you still have to go on that journey on your own. And so we talk a lot about asana, pranayama, and meditation, but what we don't talk about are kind of these ending stages of, not ending stages, but the latter or the later stages of yoga, which are dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, and kind of the bridge in between those first three and those last three, is pratyahara, and that kind of comes along within your meditation and through your meditation. And then after, yeah. And so let's break this down. What do these things mean? What did I just say? So let's back up here, and I think you all understand asana is the postures, pranayama is the breathing practices, meditation is meditation. So this is how we really take care of our mind, body, and soul, reaching balance points, getting our body to optimum health and mobility, and then being able to enter these other states. So first of all, what does pratyahara mean? This is like so I love the idea of this is like, so when we're doing asana and breathing and meditation, we are, we're looking inside and things, but we're also working with the outside a lot. We're working with the outside body, We're working with the breath, which is an outside thing. And we are working with, in meditation, we're working a lot with just sitting and with the mind, with the brain, with our like sensations and what we can feel. So all these things were really kind of are external, and so and they're making us be aware of the internal, and noticing it, but the practices are external first, and that's how we begin to master and control the body from inside out or outside in, is from these practices. And so the pratyahara is like standing in front of a doorway, and you know that on the inside of the doorway is like your inside or your spirit or your conscious, your deep or higher level consciousness, I guess. And then behind you is like the outside of the house or whatever. And that's, the body and the world and the things. And so pratyahara is really the description of standing on the brink of those two things and understanding that they're one and they're not and they are and they're the same, but they're not. And so it's pretty trippy. It gets trippy. So anyway, so that's kind of that unlocking point there. And then we move into Dharana, which is basically what we practice in meditation. So this is putting our mind onto one thing, so we focus on one object, whether that's in our mind with our eyes closed or whether that's with our eyes open and we're focusing on just like the tip of our nose or a candle flame or whatever it is. We're focusing on something and we are bringing our full attention and our full focus onto this thing. So we're pointing our attention onto something. And so a lot of times we can do this, but then it gets broken up, so we get distracted, a noise, a sensation, something happens and it kind of breaks that concentration. And so the practice is basically to be bringing your mind back to the thing. And so throughout Dharana, we're practicing this thing. Our concentration is breaking. We're coming back to it. But when we can start to really, really focus on the thing and our focus is unmoving or not oscillating, we don't want to be moving all around the object. We're literally like just stillness with the object, and having this, this very steady, still experience with the object. That's what we're going for in Dharana. And this is one way that we start to train our mind to enter these states of inner consciousness. And this is why steadiness of posture, which we practice in asana, is so important, because we can't reach these spaces if our body is hurting and we can't sit cross-legged, or our spine isn't flexible and it doesn't like to sit straight in this position. So this is why we've trained so hard with asana, and this is why we continue to keep our body mobile with asana, so that we can get the mental understanding and the spiritual understanding, and not only the understanding, but the experience. Like, again, all these religious books talk about the experience, but they don't tell you how to get it. I mean, they do, but a lot of it is in weird ways, and it's like, what? What does that mean? But this is literally like a step-by-step playbook to do it. And so it's really amazing because it actually works. So imagine that, time-tested and true. So with that, we're going to move on to Dhyana, and this is basically an elevated version of Dharana. And this is where in Dhyana we have that concentration on the object, and it does not break. It goes for a very like uninterrupted flow of concentration for a long period of time. And so the other key aspect of this sounds a little contradictory, but because I'm saying like keep a 1 point focus, but also keep a focus on the idea that you're concentrating on said thing. And so you're concentrating on the object, but you're also concentrating on the fact that you're concentrating on the object. And so you're kind of having two minds here operating. So you're focused on the object plus the idea that you're practicing or that you're focusing. So in this, you're kind of training your brain or like the spirit to be aware of itself, as you get like deeper. And so this awareness, this unbroken awareness, while we're understanding our own concentration, becomes a really interesting situation. And I say that and I laugh because I've experienced it, and it's pretty wild, it's pretty trippy. Moving on. So, from Dhyana, we enter Samadhi. So, this is when all but the object disappears and you're not aware of your own existence. And it's literally just the object that exists. And so, yeah, so I don't know that I feel like, I've got to watch my words here. I have experienced this sober, and it is very, 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 very weird. And even if it wasn't for a terribly long period of time, um, I don't even know how long. Like, it's like one of those things where time doesn't exist. But I have had that happen, and it is really, really, really odd because it's like you're literally floating in the ether of the womb of God. Like, it's very, very wild. I've also experienced this quite a few times with the help of psychedelics. And so that's where I was kind of not sure with my words of like, have I experienced this sober? I'm like, yes, I have. I don't know how long, but yes, I have. But I've definitely experienced it under psychedelics, and that is some weird stuff as well. So yes, so that is basically the description of samadhi, and you're like, oh, well, that doesn't sound that crazy, but like, it really, it quite is. It quite is. And so when you have these three things all working together, like where when you kind of move through them all, figure them all out, one leads to the other type thing. This is called samyama, which is basically like a mastery of the psychic process or mental concentration. And so like once you have those three things under wraps basically, or like figured out to where you can drop in there pretty much at will, give yourself some time and you can get there. Um, that is, yeah, like a super, that is like the advanced levels, of yoga, is being able to drop in and get to a samadhi state in a fairly reasonable amount of time. And this is where the yoga world gets really fun and mystical and wild, which is also why I think these texts have been not necessarily hidden from America, but kind of kind of. But anyway, this is where we get into the vibhutis, or the psychic powers. And so this is spoken about in Autobiography of a Yogi. If you've ever read that book, I do highly suggest it. I love that book so much. And actually, I have one of my teacher's versions or copies of the book. I need to actually return that to her. I got that book from her in probably 2011, I would say, maybe 2012. And I still have it, so that's a very long time. But I also love it dearly because it has all of her little notes in it and things, and it's just, I do love it. So I don't know. Maybe I'll just buy her a new copy and give it back to her. Give it back to her a fresh one, and I'll keep the one with her notes. But anyway, that book does have a lot of, they talk about the psychic powers and things, and in a very real way, and like he visits his mother / his mother visits him in a dream and basically says that he's sick, or that she's sick, and he has to return to India, and so he does, or return home. And so he does, and she is sick and whatever, and then he gets to see her before she passes and yada yada. But like it's things like these that might get put off as like, oh well, maybe it was chance or whatever, but it's like, no, like you literally can, it's proven. It is literally proven that we can psychically speak to one another um through space and time. Like it does not matter on the globe where you are. Locationally, that does not fucking matter. We can still instantly send messages to one another. This is truth. This is fact. The CIA knows about it. FBI knows about it. Government knows about it. They don't want us to know about it. The yogis knew about it. And this is how you do it, you know? Um, and so it's very powerful stuff. Um, you're coming face to face with the reality of truth when you get to these depths of yoga. And it gets really, really trippy. It gets very psychedelic because all of a sudden, all of the particles, all the atoms, all the cells kind of space apart, and you see the space in between for what it is, this beautiful aware consciousness that's like ever present and pervading everything, including you, and you are actually it. And it is playing you through this body, and everything else around you that you can see it is playing through. It is a really wild feeling of like just being an instrument in an orchestra, and it is wild. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing, and it's a beautiful connection. And I believe if you come from a place of love, you'll experience more of that. So, in these practices, yeah, it talks about getting to the depths of controlling our own minds so that we can, communicate and do the things that we need to do, have the abilities that humans do have the abilities to have, beyond our five senses that we're taught about, in the 3D world, and get into these other senses. And so these are really the internal disciplines. What your teacher, what your guru will teach you is essentially all those externals, all the asana, the pranayama, the meditation, and all of those things. And they will tell you about these internal ones. But that's really all one can do. Outside of then, you have to take it with everything else, put it into practice, and see for yourself what happens, Tell me you're not a believer after that. And so I feel like it's just such a beautiful, beautiful practice, and that is why I share it. So I really wanted to come on, I think today, to just say really why I share Hatha Yoga and why I bang on that drum, And so, You're probably like, well, what? Samadhi? Like, that's it? That's the end? It's like, well, there's one more step. There's one more step that I didn't really explain, and that was Nirbija Samadhi, which is said to be the finest state of awareness. Um, and this is where we are just pure awareness. There is no object. There is no seed of consciousness. There is no nothing. It's just emptiness, much like I was just talking about with like the cells and the atoms and everything spacing apart. Because if you look at an atom structure, um, it's mostly empty, what I'm going to quote unquote say empty space, and it's just protons and neutrons and electrons, and so you have this nucleus in the middle, and then you have these electrons running around the outside, and on the inside of the nucleus are your protons and your neutrons and stuff, and then you've got, neutrons and electrons all flying around, and protons, all the things. So positive, negative, and neutral, you know, um, going around, circulating, orbiting a gravitational center. And then within all of that is, empty space. So this empty space, like I said, if you can just zoom everything apart and kind of realize, whoa, this big emptiness, and like be part of that just emptiness part of it, kind of let everything else fall away. That is this Nirbija Samadhi that we're talking about, That is this finest state of understanding. This Brahman is what you might call it in Hindu, but God, source, light, universe, whatever you want to call it. That is, the experience of that, and it's quite beautiful. And once you see it, you can't unsee it, And so, not to say that you can't fall off the path into things sometimes, but it's much easier to then get right back on, because you know right where. One, you never stumble too far from the path because you know how beautiful it is. And two, even when you do stumble, you know exactly what to do to get yourself back into flow, back into those states, back into, getting into a positive awareness and higher states of consciousness for the good of all. So, with that, I am going to close up today. But I hope you enjoyed today's episode of the inner realm of the Yoga Sutras, where we talk about, just those internal experiences that we then get to have as a result of all the external work that we're doing. So, with that, one light, one love, my friends, and we'll talk soon. Bye. Hey guys, thanks for being here. I just wanted to pop on here and say, please do rate, review, and subscribe or follow, whatever it is, the show, wherever it is you're listening. So it does a ton for me. It helps people find me and things, and I would greatly appreciate it. So please go ahead and do that if you haven't already. And also, the doors are officially open for my Foundations of Hatha Yoga course. So you can get in on this magic on my website for a half off price right now for the month of June. This is a summer solstice special, so I'm super excited. But yes, for right now, you can get all 12 weeks. It's actually 13 weeks. I will throw a little disclaimer in there. All 13 weeks of all Hatha Yoga lessons in a row, as they should be taught, for you to live your highest self. So if you want to jump in on that magic right now, it is $111. And once July 1st hits, we are going to go up to $222 at the original price and the normal price, where it will then sit and stay. And yes, I'm so excited to share this with you. It has been a true blessing putting it all together. I've really, really loved and adored the process, and I can't wait to share it with you. So if you've been wanting to dive deeper into yoga, if the studio life just is not giving you the at-home practice understanding that you need to have, please, 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 that is exactly why I made Foundations of Hatha Yoga. And so just head on over to my website, holistichthathayoga.com. You can go to courses, and the Foundations of Hatha Yoga enrollment is there, and you can just click there and you'll get your access, get your little password to all the things, and you can get yourself started on a really beautiful 12 to 13 week journey of Hatha Yoga. So, with that, one light, one love, and I'll see you next week, friends. Bye. Om Loka Samista Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om